Welcome to another edition of Through My Lens. I'm your host, Kieran Jackson. And Through Our Lens is a podcast, a 15-minute perspective of purposeful and powerful living strategies. And today I'm excited that we have Dr. Vanessa Edwards. When we talk about having some strategies for success, she definitely has some great information to share with us today about how we can take care of ourselves during this pandemic. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being a part of our interview today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Great. And tell me a little bit, how did you get involved in naturopathic medicine?
All right, I'll give you the short story. So my mentor was a Bible teacher. She was into health and nutrition. And so basically, I just wanted to learn how to study the Bible, how to apply it to my life. And you can keep that health and nutrition to yourself, but God had other plans. And so he orchestrated it where I had a love for learning about nutrition and how it affects the body. I became a health minister through Hallelujah Acres and began to go to different churches and just teaching people how to optimize their health, natural ways to do that. And then God said, all right, I want you to further this. And so I went to Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Arizona, became a naturopathic doctor there. Also loved acupuncture, and that was a part of our schooling, a part of our training. And so I couldn't just leave that behind because I was moving to Ohio. So prior to moving to Ohio, I had to go to school, get my master's in acupuncture, and then I moved to Dayton, Ohio. So I'm a naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist.
Okay. And so tell me, what has been the number one thing you have seen in your practice since COVID breakout?
Sure. Yeah. With COVID, actually, many of my patients are doing very, very well because I believe they were prepared prior to. And so they've got, many of them have gotten it, but they've had very mild symptoms, body aches, slight shortness of breath, some fatigue. Basically, that's what we've been seeing at the office, and people are doing very well.
Now, we have seen in the news where individuals, some people get it and they're fine. They just may have a few symptoms, and then other folks catch it, and then it's almost a life or death situation. Explain what would be going on with that.
And so what I think, when this pandemic first started, I didn't really think it was a big deal. But then upon further investigation and research, then I began to realize, okay, yeah, this is pretty serious. And so what I started to see was a common thread, and that common thread dealt with nutrition and how the body responded to the virus. And so in the beginning, most of the focus was on the virus, and actually it's still on the virus. And so as I started to do research, that began to change my focus a bit. Instead of just it being on the virus, what I saw was it's the body's response to the virus. So a person, as you said, can be asymptomatic, have the virus, no symptoms. And the question is, well, why? What's the difference between a person that has the virus and is asymptomatic and then a person that has to go into the hospital? And so many times we saw comorbidities. We saw if you were African American or a person of color, high blood pressure, diabetes, overweight. And so again, I began to look at that information. My first thought was when they came out with the information about, okay, well, there are more people of color that are getting this and actually passing away than others. Like, why?
Right.
So my first thought was vitamin D. Because as people of color, we make vitamin D through the sun. So the sun has to penetrate through the skin, and that's how we make our vitamin D. Well, that's everybody, sorry. But if you are a person of color, it takes more time out in the sun. We have more difficulty actually making vitamin D. We'll just simplify it that way. And so many people are very deficient in vitamin D if you're a person of color. And so I began to do some studies, found some studies that dated all the way back to the Spanish flu, 1918. And basically the same thing was happening. People of color were getting the virus more and actually dying more at higher rates. And one of the reasons behind it that they found was vitamin D deficiency. So to me, it's the same thing. And so, many studies have been done with vitamin D, and I talk about this in the book with vitamin D and COVID-19. And so we're seeing some wonderful, wonderful studies that are coming out. And basically, if you optimize your vitamin D, that's going to take you a very long way, very long way.
Wow. Are there other things that you mentioned about, like blood pressure, diabetes, all those things? Does that play a huge factor in, especially people of color, having a more severe case?
Well, that's what we thought. But as I'm doing that research, it's still going back to nutrients. So there was a study that just came out in October. And basically what it showed was they did some comparison. And so I believe it was 73 people in the study. Many of them were people of color, and pretty much all of them had at least one comorbidity: high blood pressure, diabetes, overweight, autoimmune disease. And those whose vitamin D levels were less than 25, vitamin D level less than 25, 36% of them died. So all of them were in the hospital. All of them had COVID-19. 36% of them died. Those whose vitamin D levels were 25 or higher, only 6% of them died.
Wow.
So
that's me, huge.
Yeah, that's
like 30%.
Yes.
Wow.
And vitamin D is cheap. It's something that we can get over the counter. And to me, that information should have been blasted all over the news, over CNN, all, the news places, because this is so pertinent. But we're not hearing about it.
No, this is the first I heard about it. See, I knew that's why I needed to talk to you. Okay.
Yes. And so one of the reasons why we're seeing this surge, because it's wintertime. In the winter, we cannot make vitamin D. So if you're not taking it, those levels lower. When the pandemic first began, I started doing vitamin D levels regularly. I was seeing 11, 13s. Like, no, we got to increase your vitamin D levels. Yes. And now, spring came, summer came, so those levels start to go higher. So optimal range of vitamin D, I want you around 70. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So tell me, how would a person know if they were deficient in vitamin D?
Yeah, you need to get your levels tested. And it's a test that you can ask your physician to test for you. I say you shouldn't have a problem getting them to test that, but I've had some people say, okay, well, my physician won't test for vitamin D. They don't think it's a priority. I can do that for you.
Okay.
It is a priority, extreme priority right now.
Wow. So that's not a typical, like when you go to the doctor and you get your physical, your annual physical, that's not something that they automatically do.
No, it's not. You have to specifically ask for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, you talked about nutrition. How important, we've hearing a lot about vaccines now.
Yes.
And what are some things, I know people are concerned about, will they get even more sick, or will they get the virus even quicker? How does nutrition and supplements play a role in that?
That's a good question. So in my book, Beyond PPE, A Naturopathic Approach to COVID-19, I have a chapter about vaccines. And the title of it is a vaccine the answer. And so in my research, it was quite interesting what I found. This is information that I did not know. And so it's quite interesting. So what they found is, like with the flu vaccines, different other vaccines from the past, that if a person was actually deficient in certain nutrients, that vaccine does not work as well. So it still goes back to how we eat, how we sleep. Sleep is extremely important. Melatonin is a hormone that we make, but we make it when we're asleep at night with the lights out, total darkness. Well, there's studies that are showing that melatonin is a major antioxidant that helps protect you from lung injury. So we know that COVID-19 affects the lungs. But if we're hanging out in the middle of the night, staying up, working, whatever we're doing at night, we're not making that melatonin. And so you're decreasing your protection.
So is there, we've heard various hours, 6 hours, 8 hours of sleep. What do you recommend?
6 to 8 hours of sleep, but again, it needs to be in total darkness. So you're not waking up in the middle of the night, checking your cell phone. If you have to go to the bathroom, you need like a very dim light, because any light, a regular light, what we call, emits blue light. That blue light, once it goes through your eyes, it tells your body that it's daytime and it's no longer needed to, you no longer need to make melatonin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, then that explains why my little mask that I sleep with at night, I sleep very, very sound when I have that thing going.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. What are some other things? Talk a little bit more about your book a little bit and tell us what are some other things that your research you found out?
Sure. So basically what I did in the book was I looked at the Genesis account creation and went from day 1 through day 7 to see if God actually prepared us for COVID-19. And of course, by the day 7, we see that he definitely did. And so that first day, talking about the circadian rhythm, when he created night and day. And so that's when melatonin comes about. I talk about day 2, like water, the importance of having water. Most people think, okay, well, 8 glasses of water is really half your body weight in ounces a day. And so the studies are showing when we are dehydrated, then the cells cannot pull toxins out of the body. So the more toxins you have in, the lower your immune system is going to be. And so then when we hit day 3, that's when vegetation is, God creates vegetation. So we get our vitamins, our minerals. These things help to optimize our immune system. So zinc, you hear a lot about zinc and vitamin A, vitamin E, and vitamin C. Those things are very, very important. But where are we getting them from? We are getting them from food. So food is the baseline. Yes, we can do some supplementing with supplements, but they're just what they're called, supplementing your diet. So nothing substitute eating correctly. So getting your fruits and veggies in on a regular basis. So in the book, I have information about supplements, how those supplements can help with COVID-19, some studies to back up what I'm saying. This is evidence-based material, not just what I'm thinking. And then I have a list of foods that will help you increase those nutrients in your system, and then suggestions for supplements as well. We talked about day 4, the sunshine vitamin, vitamin D. That's when the sun and moon are created. And then day 5, we talk about fish oil and the importance of fish oil. Wonderful anti-inflammatories. There's a study that was done on patients that were actually on ventilators. And those patients that were on ventilators that received fish oil were able to get off the ventilator at a quicker and discharged from the hospital quicker. Day 6, I talk about mind your microbes. So our microbiome, good gut health. That's so important that our gut is healthy. So what we put in matters. And then as we know, day 7 is the day of rest. So I talk about the importance of self-care.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I just tell you, 15 minutes is just not enough time for us to get into this. We're going to have to do a part two.
All right.
Okay.
It sounds good. Sounds good.
So tell the audience, how can they get a copy of your book, or where can they find more information about Beyond PPP, a naturopathic approach to COVID-19?
Yeah, so the book is available on Amazon. And so you can put in Dr. Vanessa Edwards. I have several books and they will come up. It's available on ebook as well as paperback. So whatever suits your fancy. You can find information about me on my website, and that's V for Vanessa Edwards, ND.com. So V Edwards, N for naturopathic, D for doctor.com. And you can find more information about me there.
Okay, and where can they actually find you if they want to pursue the vitamin D testing and things you talked about earlier?
So I work out of the Rafa House Wellness Center, and that's in Dayton, Ohio. We're at 4421 Salem Avenue, Dayton, Ohio. And you can reach us at 937-275-9473. Again, that's 937-275-9473. I look forward to helping you. We can make it through this.
Well, we thank you so much for your knowledge, your expertise, and like I said, we're going to have to do a part two. So be looking out for an email from me about when we can get back together to do a part two.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much, and it's an honor to have you to be on my podcast, and beyond just seeing you at our Bible study, I'm going to have to come back because Sound Words, that was always will hold a special place in my heart.
Amen. Thank
God
you.
bless.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.